Hi, welcome back to PC Builder. I'm Jason. GPU prices have gone absolutely wild and we've got crazy developments. We've got the 4090 launching completely out of stock and scalpers descending on it. We'll talk a little bit about that and whether or not you'll ever see one of those for $1,600 again. And of course, we've got AMD getting ready to announce their GPUs on November 3rd. What do we expect in terms of pricing and availability? We'll take a look at current GPU prices, of course, as well as take a look at the huge flood of used GPUs hitting the market right now because mining has ended. And as always, we'll take a look at the best GPUs for your money right now as whether or not you should buy now or absolutely wait. If you get value out of the video, give it a like. It makes a huge difference to the channel, especially this guy right here. And of course, subscribe and click that bell icon. That way you get notified when we release cool content. With that, let's jump into it. Before that, this video is sponsored by Wondershare. If you're like us and do any work with video, audio, or photo editing, then you need to check out Uniconverter, the budget-friendly toolbox including a file converter, editor, compressor, and more. Want to batch convert audio or video files? Uniconverter makes it easy with a drag and drop process. Want to make quick edits to your video? Uniconverter can trim or apply effects with its easy-to-use interface. Files too big to send? Use Uniconverter's compressor and boom, emailable files are here. Don't spend hundreds on complicated software. Download the Uniconverter free trial today using the links in the video description. Let's start off with everybody's favorite GPU prices and where they are right now. Of course, we've got to address the new addition to the spreadsheet, which is the RTX 4090. Let's start there. Let's talk a little bit about the launch. Let's talk about what's going on with stock, because I think this is important, especially looking ahead to the 4080 16GB launch, which we're expecting here in just a couple weeks. RTX 4090, obviously the MSRP is $1,599. Why do I have a price of $2,150 in there right now? Well, that's pretty simple because it's completely out of stock. It's out of stock everywhere. Here's Newegg. It's totally out of stock. It was momentarily in stock like 3 a.m. last night and then poof, went right away. I have a feeling we're seeing bots buy those up pretty quickly because if you look on Amazon, you're like, oh, Jason, look there they are. Oh, wait, why are they so expensive? Because these are the same third-party sellers on Amazon that were scalping all the GPUs during the great GPU crisis when miners were buying them all up like crazy. And these are the same folks, basically. We go to Best Buy. They're also completely out of stock at Best Buy right now. I even went to my local Micro Center and I searched a couple of Micro Centers around me. Totally sold out. That is, of course, where we got our RTX 4090. My wife went and stood in line on launch day. There was at least 100 people there. Now they had plenty, quote unquote, plenty of stock at the time by comparison of the RTX 3000 series, but still stock sold out pretty rapidly that day. And by the end of the day, they were definitely out. Newegg was out. And everybody else who was carrying this, Best Buy and others, were out. So if we take a look, where are a lot of these RTX 4090s going? Well, they're going to eBay from scalpers. Scalpers are back. Yay? No. In fact, 523 RTX 4090s have been sold. You can see they're going for anywhere from $2,400, $2,500. That's already on top of the eye-watering MSRP of $1,599, although most of the board partner cards, even though they have a lot at $1,599, if you want like the OC models, they're usually about $1,699, $1,799. I even just went ahead and checked on the seller side. The average sold price, $2,465. Yikes, absolutely yikes. And it looks like we've got 405 total sellers with 794 total GPUs sold in that time. That's right, we're approaching 1,000 RTX 4090s that have been sold by scalpers on the secondary market already. That's pretty insane. So jumping back to the price of the 4090, why did I decide $2,150? Well, because most of those super high prices occurred around the launch day, it looks like, and a lot of volume moved around launch day, and the price has since kind of settled out a little bit as some of that demand has been cured. Not everybody's got $1,600 or $2,100 or $2,500 to buy a brand new graphics card. So it looks like right now, a buy it now price of around $2,150 will get you most of the decent models. I tend to obviously not to trust the ones that just use these looks like scams. I do expect NVIDIA to raise price and AIBs and retailers to mark these things up in the next couple waves if they feel like the demand will support it, because they've already done this for the last 2 years. Why wouldn't they do it now? Well, let's start off on the AMD side because you'll see we've made some other changes to the spreadsheet, anticipating more cards coming in. So what we're going to do is start to compress some of these cards that effectively offer very similar performance. So let's start off with October pricing. And Geez, 4% down on the 6900 XT. That's actually pretty good. You're going to notice that most of these are ASRock Radeon Phantom Gaming D models over at Newegg. Looks like ASRock has just seen the handwriting on the wall saying, well, we better chuck these things out for whatever we can get for them right now. Otherwise, they may not sell whatsoever. For the 6800 XT, we're down 8%. Same Phantom Gaming D model over at Newegg. Then we've got the RX 6800 down 12%. Again, guess what? Another ASRock Phantom Gaming D model. I actually really like this cooler. I get why ASRock is trying to dump them right now. Obviously, they don't want to lose their shirt if they can't sell these things. Then we're pricing, I think it continues to get interesting. 6700 and 6750 XT. There's actually about a $50 price difference between the two. That being said, right now, $389. That's, of course, the ASRock Radeon Challenger 6700 XT. And then another 11% drop for the 6650 XT. Not only has it replaced the RX 6600 and given us about 6-7% more performance, the price has gone down below where it ever has been. So $279 right now. That's a Gigabyte Eagle model. That's a 3-fan model. Perfectly fine. You can also find similar models on Amazon as well. And then finally, we've got the RX 6600, $219, down another 8%. $219. Now, many would say this is probably where this card always should have sold for, and if it had, I think AMD would have cut in a lot more market share. This is actually the Asus Dual Radeon. There's just a number of these cards. They take turns being the cheapest. Unlikely to be any kind of replacement for these GPUs anytime soon. You will note that we have ditched the 6500 XT because I'm only going to put graphics cards up here that I would feel comfortable recommending. Nobody should buy that card. Let's jump into the NVIDIA pricing, and then we're going to get to use pricing, which is totally insane. I can't wait to show you what's going on. But let's talk about the 3090 and the 3000 series and current NVIDIA graphics cards. Yes, we've combined cards just like we did on the AMD side that are effectively very close in performance just to make some room on the spreadsheet here for new graphics card launches that are coming down the pike. Interesting note about the RTX 3090 and 3090 Ti. Now, you'll see the price here, $949, down 3%. Yeah, whatever. That's kind of just month-to-month variability as a Zotac model. What's interesting is this is actually sold and shipped on Newegg from the Zotac store, not Newegg itself. And if you take a look at the number of GPUs left on the 3090 and 3090 Ti side on Newegg, you'll see there's not many, and then everything's out of stock after that. Well, what in the heck is going on? So the only thing I can really figure out going on here is one of two things. Either NVIDIA is selling through the stock of 3090s and 3090 Ti's, even though we're hearing about these mountains of stock, or what could be going on here is that Raptor Lake 13th Gen Intel embargo lifted yesterday. If you didn't watch our best Z790 and Z690 motherboards for Intel 13th Gen, check that out. I think a lot of people made a decision on what they're going to build yesterday. They bought a lot of stuff. And some people probably made the decision they just didn't want to wait for the 4080. Maybe they thought, oh, I'm not going to be able to get one. They'll all sell out. Same with the 4090. Maybe 4090 was too much for some folks. So we saw 3090s in this price bracket sell out. And all we're seeing now is they'll wait for more to come in. That being said, there's not a ton of 3090s left. So that's kind of interesting. 3080 Ti, $729 down 1%. Whoopity-doo. It's over at Best Buy. It's a PNY card. Not bad card. I actually do like the design on this one. 3070 Ti down 2% to $519. You'll see most of these are real snoozers. 3060 Ti down 2% to $439. More than anything, this doesn't really represent a trend as much as just kind of monthly variability of pricing. I would say that these are all effectively flat. The 3060 down 8% to $341. Does it actually represent a real price decrease? Well, there's only one model around there. Everything else is still up around $370 to $380 plus dollars, but there is this model on Amazon. It's a Zotac one. I mean, some people don't like Zotac for whatever reason. I think their cards are absolutely fine. $341 right now over at Amazon. I believe this is sold and shipped from Amazon. So hopefully that does mark the trend of 3060 beginning to come down, but we'll have to wait and see. Rounding out NVIDIA on the quote unquote budget side, again, I don't necessarily recommend these cards. We'll go through, of course, the best GPUs to buy right now, both used and new, later in the video based on price to performance. RTX 3050 down a little bit to $279. Yeah, it's still over its MSRP, still slower than the 2060. 2060, $249. It's actually up about almost 10%. And I think what we're seeing here is the end of the 2060s. Remember, NVIDIA started reproducing these things along with, I guess, amping up their 1660 Ti and 1660 Super production when the GPU market was totally insane. insane, but now that it's oversupplied, especially given that these were great mining cards. That's why they were producing the 2060 and the 1660 Super, 1660 Ti. Those are great mining cards, and the market is absolutely getting flooded with those right now. I think we're seeing the end of them if you want to buy them new. Let's jump into what the heck is going on with the GPU market. Why are RTX 3000 prices not coming down the way we would expect them to, even though AMD continues to drop prices? At the same time, we see huge lines for the 4090, and we see graphics cards being canceled along with a flood of used GPUs. It's almost like so much information, we don't even know what to do with it all. So let's just start at the top. I think, and I see, two GPU markets being created. We've got the market for the people who have $1,200 or more to spend on a graphics card, probably actually more like $1,300, $1,400, right? You will have access to all the latest and greatest tech from NVIDIA. But the cancellation of the 4080 12GB, well, on the one hand, yes, look at these numbers. If we ignore DLSS 3.0, which has been shown to actually increase latency, even though it increases FPS. So if we ignore the DLSS 3 numbers and just look at raw rasterization, you can see the 4080 12GB, lower performance than the 3090 Ti, almost the same performance as the 3080. What the heck are you even paying money for? $900. That sounds like a pretty big cash grab when you can buy a 3080 right now for less than, or around about $730. So that was pretty crazy. And I understand why NVIDIA canceled that card. Other folks have gone over that. But let's put this into a market context. Cancel this card right here, and you have a $1,600 card here, and you have a $1,200 card right here. And we know those cards are actually going to sell for more than those MSRPs. And then you've got the market for everybody else, like $1,000 and below. And NVIDIA is just going to hold off on giving you anything else. It's not like they said, yeah, the 4080, we'll just call it a 4070 and we'll cut the price down a couple $100. No. They didn't say that at all. They just said, we're not launching it. They're going to just leave you with the super high end while they try and sell off their massive amount of stock of the Ampere stock. And that's just where NVIDIA is right now. So what's going on the AMD side? Well, AMD, of course, they're announcing RDNA 3 on November 3rd at 4 p.m. Eastern time. Together We Advance Gaming is the name of it. Like, why can't they just call it, here's our GPUs you should be excited press conference? I mean, that's what I would name it. Here's our GPUs. They're going to be a lot cheaper than NVIDIA's, and they're going to be great performance. That's another good name. So this is AMD's opportunity to significantly undercut NVIDIA. And as we just saw, NVIDIA's left them plenty of room to come in with much higher performance GPUs at a somewhat reasonable price range and significantly cut into NVIDIA's market share. The big question is AMD smart enough to take this opportunity, or do they going to do the same silly thing that they did last generation, which is just feel like they're going to go for the money rather than go for market share? That's what they could have gone for market share last time. They didn't. They went for money. They're now doing the market share thing on the lower and mid range, but do they want to do that at the high end as well? That's going to be the big question mark, and we're going to see here in just a couple weeks. So Ethereum went to proof of stake on September 15th, around September 15th, and it's been about 30 days. Now listen, miners are not just rushing a product back to market. They literally just saw their entire livelihood evaporate. So a lot of them are the various stages of acceptance, anger, denial, bargaining, whatever all the other ones are. Because a lot of them are still living in a fantasy land where they think it's all going to come back and they're holding on to their cards. We'll get into a little bit more of that in a second. But if we take a look, who's actually still mining out there? Because if you look at pre-merge right here, the blue area is what was mining Ethereum. And then we've got Ethereum Classic. So about 96, almost 97% mining some form of Ethereum out there. Ethereum goes to proof of stake. All the other coins get swamped. And if you look at the profitability right now, in fact, let's just take a look at it. You can see everything here is negative. Like literally every card is negative on every single currency. That means if they turn on their rigs, they're no longer making any money. They're actually losing money on power. And this is actually power at 10 cents a kilowatt hour. Power's not 10 cents a kilowatt hour almost anywhere anymore with inflation. The only card that's actually making money, and I thought this was funny, is the RTX 4090. They're saying it's making 5 cents a day. They have the wrong price in here. This is actually $15.99, not $14.99. And your break-even point is 31,703 days at that profitability. What is that in terms of years? It's over 85 years. You would have to mine for 85 years with the 4090 to break even on the price of it. So yes, GPU mining is dead. It's not coming back. But that doesn't mean that there aren't just tons of holdouts out there. Let's take a look at some of these graphs. For instance, this is a great graph. The gray area here is how many people are no longer mining this area. And this is what's still mining. and they list the RTX 3070 equivalents of the hashing power that's left. You can see initially about 8 million, a little over 8 million GPUs. Now a little over 11 million RTX 3070's worth of hashing power has completely left the network. Hasn't been sold yet because a lot of miners are still living in an alternate reality. A lot of miners right now are living in a total alternate reality. Not all of them. Some of them are smart. They get it. They're selling their rigs off, or they were selling them off earlier. But now we're seeing a lot of holdouts. People thinking that the GPUs are going to appreciate in value the way they did over the last 2 years. Well, no, they're not. They're not real estate. They're a piece of electronics like everything else. They're going to degrade and they're going to be worth less, and new products are going to come out. So it's going to take a little while for these folks emotionally and kind of mentally to get sorted out and start selling off their GPUs. I figure sometime in the next 60 to 90 days, we will see the prices of used GPUs absolutely crater, and it's already beginning. Let's jump into those used prices. Let's start off with the juicy ones, right? The RTX 3000 series. Now listen, I don't think these are all good prices just yet, especially when you compare them to new prices right now. I don't see the discount yet that I would want to see to grab a lot of these. 3060 Ti might grab my attention at $310. That being said, these are buy it now prices. What I do is I go in, I know you can get historical data, other folks do that. I want to show you a price that when you go in, and I don't just pick the lowest one, I pick kind of more towards the middle. These are prices you'd expect to see for decent quality, non-scammy listings in there that ordinary people who don't know how to game the system and snipe auctions and things like that, who just want to buy something now, can absolutely expect. So RTX 3060, $290, that's not bad. Although, again, for about $60 more, you can get a brand new one. So is that worth it to you? But that's down 21% from last month. 3060 Ti price down 31%. 3080 to the 3060 down about 20 to 30%. On the higher end, the 3080 Ti, just lower volume of the 3080 Ti 3090. Still pretty good price decrease on the 3090. I expect these prices to continue to come down. Remember, miners are gonna have to confront the reality that this is just never gonna change. On the AMD side, for 6000 series cards, we're looking at anywhere from about 20 to 25% price decrease, except it's a super high end, really low volumes on that super high end. And honestly, not as much volume on the Radeon cards as with the RTX 3000 series. If you look at eBay, they're not great value just yet, given how AMD continues to reduce the prices of its new graphics cards. So I expect these to continue to fall rapidly. If we take a look at the older, both Polaris, RDNA, and Vega generations on the AMD side, we can see they continue to fall massively. Now, these cards have already taken a huge hit even beforehand as miners started to sell. Now, these were all fantastic mining cards, and miners were getting rid of them first before getting rid of the RTX 3000 series or GTX 1660s and others. The 5700 XT is down to $192. That was a $450 graphics card when it released. $192, great price for it. That being said, I expect these cards to continue to plummet. In terms of the previous generation RTX cards and GTX 16 series, we're seeing kind of more modest decreases, anywhere from 10 to about almost 20%, depending on the generation. RTX 2060 is falling the most. Remember, those are really, really good mining cards, and NVIDIA started reproducing them. So that's why we're seeing a huge volume of those hitting the market, as well as the 1660 Ti, 1660 Super, and just the regular vanilla 1660, all down about $140. They continue to fall. Again, great mining cards, but miners starting to really shuck those into the eBay machine. Then, of course, closing it out with Pascal and Maxwell generations. 1066 gigabytes, not as attractive as the RX 580. Honestly, most of these cards, the 900 series cards at this point, I'd probably go ahead and avoid, especially since you can get like a 570. It's probably a much newer card for about the same price and performance. And in terms of the 10 series, these cards still need to come down quite a bit more. The RX 580, the 5700 XT, that's where I would be looking if you're focused on, getting something really good use. But honestly, I would continue to wait another 60, maybe even 90 days, and these cards are going to get dirt cheap. Let's take a look at the best GPUs for your money right now, both used and new at various resolutions. And if you're not familiar with how this works, we basically take these performance of these cards versus an RX 570. We take their current price, we get a price to performance, and then that's pretty much it. This is all US pricing. If you want to do your pricing, there's a link to this spreadsheet down in the video description. You can jump in, you can make a copy of it. I've got notes in here on how to do that, put in your prices in your region. All right, jumping into the best under $200 GPU right now for gaming. They're all used. Obviously, they're all used. Nobody's making new graphics cards in the under $200 market right now, although the 6600 is getting close. But RX 580, if you are budget limited, or the RX 570, I'd skip the 970, the little older 570, a little newer, gives you the same performance. But the super champ here is the RX 5700 XT. Look at that performance compared to everything else, blows it away for only $192. Need a little bit more of a haircut on the price. The GTX 1070 or 1660 Super, not bad either. Pulling off the price limits and just looking at the best high FPS 1080p gaming cards, RX 5700 XT just wrecking everything else out there. 5600 XT also good value. It's just nowhere near what the 5700 XT is right now. If you want something new, RX 6600, slightly less performance than the 5700 XT, but $220, not that much more. Comes with a warranty, it's brand new. 6600 XT and 6650 XT, those are your choices for really super high FPS 1080p gaming, $279 brand new. Jumping over to 1440p, and again, the RX 5700 XT, I knew when this card came down in price because miners were selling off. They're just buying these for as much of $1,000 each. Last year, at the height of the mining craze, because they're such good mining cards, I knew when the miners flooded these back in the market, we were going to see a lot of them. Look at that thing. It's just completely wrecking 1440p gaming as well. Some folks might consider this a little too weak for all games at 1440p. I'd look at the 6650 XT maybe as your floor in that case. Not that much more, $279. If you're looking for something NVIDIA, you're going to have a tough fight on this one. You're basically looking at an older generation card, and I don't know if it's really worth it. The 6800 XT, $539 brand new, 6700 XT for $389. All of those are really good value. And then, of course, we've got 4K gaming, and we've got AMD just cutting prices and cutting prices and cutting prices has meant that their cards have really floated up to the top of this list, and NVIDIA keeping their prices the same effectively means that their cards are kind of sinking down on this list. So if you want 4K gaming right now, I'd look at a 6800 XT. Those are pretty decent value, but I actually don't think anybody should be buying 4K gaming cards right now in this price class because, of course, AMD is going to announce their GPUs on November 3rd. They may announce a GPU for as little as $550, $600 that will maybe blow these things out of the water. So let's play everyone's favorite game. Should you buy now or should you wait? Well, honestly, if you're somebody, let's start at the high end. If you have $1,600 or more to spend on a graphics card and you've been waiting forever and you won't consider an AMD graphics card, then your mind's made up. Go out and buy your 4090 wherever you can get it, whenever it comes back in stock or however you need to go get one. That being said, I do expect pricing on those cards to probably start creeping up now that NVIDIA realizes there's a lot of people out there who will pay that much for a graphics card. They're going to start I suspect, trying to test the market. So I might try and get one sooner rather than later. For everybody else, especially those who have like $1,200 down to $500, I would put a big freeze on my new graphics card purchase in that range. We'll talk about folks below that in just a second because AMD is going to have an announcement in a couple of weeks here on November 3rd. That being said, everybody else, let's talk about everybody else. Does it make any sense to wait if you have like $400 less? Not really. I mean, look, there's an outside chance that AMD does in fact do what they were initially rumored to do, which is lead with Navi 33, which are the lower end RX 7000 GPUs. I could see them like as a sucker punch to NVIDIA. I don't think they're going to do it. So I would just go ahead, get something now. 6700 XT, 6650 XT look really good. Used GPU pricing is cratering right now if you're looking to do a budget build. I think we're, again, approaching a golden era of PC building. We'll have more to say on terms of the CPUs, and no, not just Raptor Lake and Ryzen 7000 and super expensive stuff that I'm not even sure why people need that for gaming. It's like massive overkill when you should be spending your money on your GPU these days, not your CPU. And you see stuff like the Ryzen 5600 for like $130 or $140 right now. 12100s out there for $100. Those are great CPUs. If you didn't check out our recent $680 1440p gaming PC build. Check that out. I'll leave a link to it down in the video description. You can build dirt cheap gaming PCs right now. Forget the 4090. If you don't have the budget for that, you can still get into PC gaming at super high frame rates. Amazing performance for not that much money. If you got value out of the video, give it a like. It makes a huge difference to the channel, especially this guy right here who's so tired from all the launches, he slept through this whole thing. And of course, subscribe and click that bell icon. That way you get notified when we release cool content. Now, if you missed our best Ryzen 7000 motherboard guide or best Intel 13th gen motherboard guide, check them out right here. Whether or not you're thinking of building Intel or Ryzen 7000 right now, check out what your options are. And we'll catch you on the next one.